is a universe of its own. And then immediately came the fear, as if someone had hit me in the stomach. It was a stomach feeling. If this is so, how can anyone know it all? How can anyone ever possess it all, visit it all? How can anyone ever make an inventory of the totality of available human existence? And many children do this, I believe. I began night and day writing down lists of capitals, lists of oceans, lists of popes, and endless idiocy, lists of flowers, of trees. Many children do this. I had the feeling, if you can just get the list down on paper, and if it is complete, please let me underline that, the nightmare of the missing one. If one is missing, you've lost the bet. You've lost the gamble against totality. And as I look back on my work, my deep distrust of theory, my deep distrust of the great models of totality comes probably from that day. I am fascinated by the inviolate, hard, rock-like core of the particular, of the specific, of the unrepeatable, of the actually terrifying fact that if we repeat the same sentence, the second time cannot be quite the same. The vocal cords are slightly different. You are older, the vibrations are different. I've asked great pianists, when you do a trill in a Beethoven sonata, in a Liszt study, those fantastic rap, how do you know that you're hitting the key the same number of times? And they'll smile and they'll say, we don't. Even the most accurate, even a Brendel, even the people who are the facsimile artists of a composer's score are playing ad libitum. The finger is too quick. No one ever repeats the same trill on a piano twice. Years later, I read a book, it's perhaps his deepest book, by Søren Kierkegaard, the great Danish religious thinker and philosopher, called On Repetition, where that is very much his point. And then Nietzsche who says, yes, there is eternal return. It will all come back identical. I don't believe that, but I know why he said it. Because the terror of the immensity of the particular in human existence and in the world. There are people who live with this very comfortably, who know that there are 1 quadrillion stars in sight, that we will never be able to count them, never be able to name them, never be able to make a systematic index. Even the greatest star atlas is incomplete.
For you?
It worries me. I want to know, why has the universe been organized in this way? There is a legend I love. I love legends because Heidegger used to say, if you can't think, you tell a story. And that crushes me. That is the cruelest thing you can say. He's perfectly right. Mm-hmm. But if one doesn't have a systematic intellect, and I probably don't, I love stories. The castle in Scotland, the royal castle, is called Glamis, where, for instance, the Queen Mother was brought up. And there are about 200 windows. And they decided to find out how many rooms there are in this castle by putting a candle in every window. Very easy, beautiful idea. There's always one window without a candle, however often you try to visit every room. And that I find a hauntingly beautiful image and illustration. However hard you try, there'll always be one window without a candle.
But in your childhood, it was frightening.
Frightening and
there
exciting.
Was simply too much to everything. Detail could know no end. You wrote it also generated fear.
Yes.
Why, for heaven's sake, were you making lists of almost everything in the world? Castles, knights...
popes, anti-popes, particularly anti-popes. An attempt probably to master that fear, to say, I can get it right.
But what was the fear exactly? Because you don't have
deep
the universe
in the
under
subconscious,
control,
there must have been deep in the subconscious the sense of otherness, that however well you try to study and understand the world, it will escape you. Mm-hmm. That there will always be a strangeness. Now, this is the late 1930s, before the word strangeness enters modern physics, before the word singularity, the black hole, enters. But I had some intuitive sense that in life and in the substance of the world, there was a strangeness which would always defy and even mock our attempts at understanding. And that is a rather frightening experience. Perhaps not to everybody. There are those who rejoice in this, who say, hurrah, I will relax.
A mystery. Hurrah,
I will relax
hurrah,
with it. Yeah. I come from a very Voltairean, Jewish rationalist tradition, which believed absurdly perhaps, in the almost infinite power of human reason. When Karl Marx said in one of the most deeply rabbinic things he ever said, humanity only asks the questions when it is ready to find the answers. He was wrong. But what a noble error. He was wrong. But at that time, or in a certain optimistic, liberal world of imagining, it looked as if that was a true promise.
If you look back at this childhood fear of not having the world under control, that nothing could ever be complete, this fear, how is your attitude towards it now? Very different or slightly different?
Slightly different. I accept it. I'm resigned to the obvious fact. B, I now realize that exhaustive, analytic footnotes of life do not necessarily contain the truth one is looking for. I know that. And one of the things that changed my whole outlook, which is not in the little book, is the following. I was briefly a guest professor in China, and I met some of the archaeologists who had been digging up these unbelievable armies of terracotta, 10,000, 12,000 soldiers, horses, emperors, in the tombs of the West and in Sichuan. First they told me that every single figure had a different expression on its face. So I remembered my childhood sense, but in that case, don't you want to see them all? No. We are putting the earth back over large parts of those armies. We're making sure they are dry and safe. Let them be. So I said, explain that to me. They said, those we have seen are already so wonderful. They fill our scholarship, our imagination. Let future generations have the joy of finding the next 10,000. We're telling them where they are. Enough for us. That was a very important moment for me. I was deeply moved. The cliches about Chinese wisdom and Chinese sense of time suddenly came home to me in a deeply personal way. So now I say to myself, stop running around the libraries. You won't read those books in your lifetime. Others will have the joy. There are museums you will never see, landscapes in which you will never sit or see the evening light come in. All right, as long as it's possible for others after you. So my fear has shifted. It has shifted into the deliberate vandalism and destruction of our planet, of our resources. It has shifted to the question, will our children and grandchildren be able to see what we have not? If I can believe that they will, there is a lot of consolation. But that Chinese wisdom is really worth thinking about very, very hard. We would bring in the bulldozers and get all those armies out and into the museums as fast as possible. Or at least we would say we have to photograph all of them immediately. There is in the Chinese sense of leaving them unseen a great confidence, a great maturity, and a great sense of peace.